Hi, welcome back for part 4 of Getting Psyched for Information Literacy. Today we're going to be talking about some of the different tools that you can use for searching for peer-reviewed information, including broad sources like Summon and more specific sources like subject-specific databases. So one thing that you might be wondering is what would be the purpose or benefit of looking at a subject-specific databases versus something really broad like Summon or Google Scholar when they could provide you with more results and more research? Well, those broad search tools like Summon and Google Scholar, they're going to bring in perspectives from a lot of different subject areas. It's very interdisciplinary. It's bringing stuff from nursing and from engineering, and it's putting it all in one spot for you. So even if you have really good search terms, you might, that are dealing with something like psychology that you are interested in, it might be bringing in something like a nurse's perspective on psychiatric interventions. So it might not be as relevant as some of the stuff that you could find in a subject-specific database. All right, so let's get started. Let's go first through this subject-specific database. So for this case, we're going to be using PsycInfo. So one way to get there is going from the library homepage to databases. We can go by subject, so you didn't know specifically which one you wanted. We could go to psychology, and our best bets right up here, we're going to go to PsycInfo. And here's our Boolean search, our options to use Boolean search, like what we talked about last time. And I'm going to look at the effects of social media. It didn't even gives me some options here, so we can let it autofill. And then I'm going to say depression. So I'm looking about how social media and depression play together on college students. All right, and then we have other options, like we can include that we want it to be peer-reviewed. But not only that, but we can narrow it that we want it maybe within the last 5 years. So 2017 to 2022. And we can even say like what age group we wanted. So if I didn't want to specifically say college students there, I could narrow down my age group here. But then also I could see which audience that I want the article to be written for. So if I were looking for professional research, I could narrow it down here. So there's lots of additional options that I can do in this search engine right here. So it makes it so that it's narrowing down a lot of my search right ahead of time. So let's see what comes up. All right, we are getting 82 results. That's not bad. But right off the bat, association between social media use, and it gives us some examples of social media and depressive symptoms. Are Twitter users at higher risk? And we see that the college students came up as a subject. So let's take a look at this article here. One nice thing about using subject-specific databases right off the bat is if we had a hard time of coming up with these words by ourselves, what we could do is once we find an article that does seem pretty relevant, we could take a peek at the different subjects that are used or keywords to help add to our list of words that might be useful. Because sometimes that's the hardest part, is thinking of the words ourselves. So this does a lot of the work for you. So always take a chance or take a moment to look at the keywords and the subjects, because they could really help you not have to reinvent the wheel. So this would be something, if I were researching this topic, that I'd really want to take a look at. But the first thing you might notice is that there's no option for a full text or a PDF download. I just have this little box that says find it at VU. When I click on this, it's searching all the different databases that we have outside of PsycInfo to see if we have it in any other database. But it turns out that we don't. So we'll have to request it via interlibrary loan. And we are going to talk about interlibrary loan next week, so tune in. At this point, I'm going to go to Summon, which Summon is the library's tool, which is closest to Google, where it's searching most of the library's holding, including the databases. I'm going to go to More Search Options, and I'm going to take that search string that I used in the subject-specific database, which was PsycInfo. I'm going to copy it into here. Now, Summon is a little bit more picky. It wants capital ORs. That is just telling it, again, it's a computer, so it's not intuitive always, that it is a Boolean operator and not just the word OR. So I have to change those to capital ORs. But if the database autofills it for you and it puts in small ORs, then it means that it understands that it's small ORs. But then depression and college students. And then I'm going to use the same criteria, last 5 years and peer reviewed. And let's see what. All right, and we get 157 results. So that's not too bad. It means that our search was pretty straightforward, and we weren't overwhelming, getting too many results. And we see right here that our first result is the one that we looked at before. But as researchers, we want to make sure that when we're actually looking to at the different titles and the different journals, to make sure that it's actually relevant to what we want. Because again, we're using a broad search tool. We could be getting something that's not actually relevant to what we want. So when you're looking at these 157 results, keep in mind some of them might not be relevant. Right, and the third tool that we talked about is Google Scholar. So scholar.google.com. Their advanced search is not nearly as robust, but it is over here, advanced search, and we want to find it with all of the words. So luckily you can just copy and paste that string of words there that we did before. And then we can change our dates to the last 5 years and hit search. One thing that you need to make sure is that you are signed into your Valpo account through Gmail. You can see my little picture there showing that I am signed in. That way it tells you if your library has access to it. That way you are not getting hit with what's called paywalls, where they're trying to get you to pay for something. Even if it is something that we don't have, like maybe this was the one that you were interested in and it doesn't look like we have it, and then you click on it and it's trying to get you to pay for it, that's again where Next Week comes in to play, where you can request something via interlibrary loan. The last thing about working in Google Scholar is that you're going to have to make sure that these are peer-reviewed. Google Scholar is known for it being scholarship, but since it is searching pretty much everything that Google searches, you're just going to want to be a little bit more careful to make sure that the stuff in here has been peer-reviewed. So taking a moment to look to see if there's the library has it and it shows that it's peer-reviewed, or looking at the journals, about the journal section, and seeing if it does state that it is peer-reviewed. That's important. And then lastly, the Google Scholar does search everything. So again, it's your job to make sure that it's relevant to what you want. It's not going to be necessarily from a psychology perspective. It might be from a perspective outside of your field. So it's really a judgment call on whether or not the stuff here is relevant. That is all for today. Thanks for tuning in. And next week we'll be covering, like I said, interlibrary loan. Thanks.